Hello and welcome to the second part of our Essential Information Group mini-series on how to find the best deals going to property auctions across the UK, countrywide, and specifically in our region of Manchester we're going to be focusing on in this particular video. Now the second video that we're going to be going through today is looking at ultimately a particular filter set to find very good qualified properties that are going to auctions, a very genuine reason for sale, and that's repossessions. Now repossessions historically have been seen as potentially good opportunities to buy properties for the right value. Also sometimes properties that you can add value with because of a refurbishment, depending on the location and the condition of those properties. But ultimately repossessions can also have some other genuine kind of benefits when you're purchasing those properties. Now one of those benefits is just ultimately understanding that there is a genuine reason for sale. There's usually not something hidden or untoward, unlike there can be with some of the sales going to auction. So sometimes properties are sold at auction because there's some inherent structural issues or some inherent legal issues. Now that's not to say that that's not the case with repossessions. You can certainly have that, but ultimately when you try and understand what the vendor's reason is for sale, when you know and understand that it's a genuine reason, like a repossession would be because maybe a lender's defaulted or the owner is defaulted and the lender's repossessed, that you know that property is being sold for a legitimate and genuine reason. So repossessions are the focus, let's say, of this particular search. And if you were to look for repossessions when you're maybe using some of the other traditional search portals of, say, Zoopla or Rightmove, it's very hard to try and pinpoint which properties those are going to be. You certainly don't have filter sets that allow you to easily search, whereas Essential Information Group do. So I'll show you exactly how to do that. Now first, what we need to do is move the properties that we had from our original search, from our shortlist, into a portfolio so we don't lose them, because those initial listings are still potentially very good. They're still properties that could work and we still want to do some further due diligence on them. So that was the first video that we did, which just showed you the basics of how we use ourselves, Essential Information Group. So to do that, to add them to our portfolio or to a portfolio, if we go to our settings here, click on shortlist, that'll bring up all our original listings. Now there's two ways that we can do this. We can click on the icon here and save this property to one of our portfolios. That can just be done on a case-by-case basis, or there's an easy solution here at the top, which is convert to portfolio. So let's set up a portfolio here. Let's call it Manchester recent listings of recent properties, or shortlist. And if we click on save, what that should do then is add all of the properties into one portfolio. If we want to see what that portfolio looks like, if we click on our account, portfolios, you can see that portfolio has now been created with all of those property listings in there. That's great because it just allows us to go back over those listings later on. If we click on shortlist, it's also removed all of those initial properties from the shortlist. So it allows us to start fresh really for our next search. So here we want to go back to detailed search. Now what we're looking for specifically, as we mentioned, is repossession properties. Now we can keep all the same criteria in terms of location, keep all the same criteria for residential because they're important to us, but this is the section we want to focus on. So here we have residential. Click on repossession only under the residential filter. Still future auctions, and then we can save this as an additional search. We can call this Manchester 2 possessions only. So if we wanted to come back and have a look at this later on down the line, we've got an easy way of doing that with our save search criteria. Now ultimately that's come up with no matching results on this particular search. So what we might need to do is just modify the search and change it slightly. Now this could be because we've got quite a narrow location. So if we take out, for example, or if we add in a further distance or take out any particular criteria, so if we had a particular narrow search criteria, there may not be repossession properties going to auction anytime soon. Hence the reason why it's not sold on that local listing. So we increase the search criteria there. Still looking at future auctions. And click search. What that's now done is pulled up one or two, or as you can see here, 3 listings that we've got that are specifically mortgages. So on these listings, these are a bit further out than what we'd originally anticipated, but they're still in an area that can work for us. Now, there's lots of investors that we know of that just want to buy repossession properties for a whole host of reasons, and they will buy them anywhere across the country. So this particular search, for example, is great. If you don't have a narrow postcode, street or town location that you're focusing on, and you just wanted to look at repossessions and you keep your search criteria open, you should have a lot more opportunities to go at. Now, these are all future auctions, so these are properties that are coming up in auction. You can see here, the vendor now is listed as mortgagee, AMG, or mortgagee. Sometimes this will change depending on the detail of who the seller is, but ultimately they all fulfill that repossession criteria. Now, we'd use the same criteria as previously, so we'd want to shortlist them first and see if they're ones that we would be interested in considering. Now, all of these, from the look of it, could be ones that would work for us, so I would add them all initially to our shortlist, and then later on we can add them to a portfolio if they pass the shortlisting initial stage criteria. But first of all, let's click on one of these properties, and again, just to recap on the extra search criteria that we would usually do on these listings, which ultimately is view street history and view similar properties. Again, this is primarily just to check the valuation, make sure we're on the right sort of line, see what properties are selling for in that local area, and very importantly to see if those properties have been listed previously. So this one again here, you can see it was listed at a previous auction. Not only once by the looks of it, but twice or a couple of times. So this is a property that's gone to auction a number of times and has sold or failed to sell. So this one was unsold, last bid is 36,500. Then so obviously it didn't sell at this auction, went into another auction. Went into another auction not only on a different date but also with a different auctioneer. No bids with that auction. It's gone again to a different auction. Unsold, last bid was only 33,000 and now it's available for 35,000. So they've dropped the price, the seller has. Originally they would have only wanted 40, or they had, sorry, a line in the sand at 40,000. They had a bid at 36,500. That's now a higher bid than what they have received in future auctions. So you can see the kind of motivation for that sale is kind of increasing. Didn't sell at that auction, so again it's gone back in with another auctioneer to see what it'll sell for. Guide price of 29,000 this time round. So there might be something inherently wrong with the property, hence the reason why it's not selling or hasn't sold. It's a very low guide price, so maybe there's an issue with the building, maybe there's an issue with the leasehold or freehold on the property. Without looking at the legal pack and without doing viewings on the property, it's hard to say, but that would certainly give rise for further due diligence, let's say, on this particular listing to see if it's one that was workable. But hopefully you can see here how that kind of search process works, what we're looking for specifically with these properties. Now if we click on shortlist, again we can go back to the original properties that we've added to see if they would be suitable. We can also again convert this to a portfolio, so we can call this Manchester Recent Repossessions. What we now have is two portfolios created around potential properties that fit our criteria. So the first one is just Manchester Recent. These are a list of properties that are within the region and areas that we want to focus on. The next one is Manchester Recent and Repossessions. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully it gives you an idea of how to specifically find some very qualified properties going to auction that could be very good bargains using the AI Group kind of tools. In the third video we're going to be showing you a third kind of set of criteria that we look at when we're searching for potential options. Hope that video has been helpful. As again, any questions, don't hesitate to ask, and look forward to catching up with you in the next video.